California wine country with her college sweetheart and teenage son. She received a master's degree as a historian of science from Sonoma State University and loves to travel. To aid in the research of her writing, she spent a month in France, scouring museums in Paris and trekking through medieval hilltop villages in the mid-Pyrenees. She's been a member of the California Writers Club for more than a decade and is past president of the local branch, Redwood Writers. She has had opinion editorials published in the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, the Los Angeles Times, and essays published in several of the Redwood Writers Vintage Voices anthologies, as well as the centennial edition of the California Writers Club anthology, West Winds. More of her writing can be found at her literary blog, lcmccabe.blogspot.com, where she posts about writing, travel, medievalism, and whatever strikes her interest. She also has a website at www.lindacmccabe.com, where she invites book clubs to contact her for visits by speakerphone or Skype chats. Let's welcome Linda to read from her book, Quest of the Warrior Maid.
Thank you, Mona. I was recently interviewed on KRCB's Word by Word program by my friend Gil Mansard. It aired on January 2nd. And if anyone is interested in hearing me read more passages, it's now available as an iTunes download. Just go to iTunes, KRCB Word by Word, and you can find it. And Quest of the Warrior Maiden is an epic historic fantasy set in the time of Charlemagne. And my main character, Bradamant, is the one who receives the call to adventure instead of a young hero. And she is called to rescue her beloved, who is being held prisoner by a wizard. So here she is, about to release him, to liberate him. Bradamant waited patiently, but nothing seemed to happen. She counted to 10 and blew her horn again. By the third blast, shadowy forms gathered within the castle around the windows. Movement on the rooftop caught her eye. She raised her shield and drew her sword as a winged beast took to the sky. She marveled at the fantastic beast flying through the air bearing the wizard Atala. Bradamant had assumed from the stories told at the inn that Atala rode on the back of a flying horse similar to Pegasus. She never dreamt it would be a creature with the head, wings, and forelegs of an eagle atop the body of a horse. The animal was yellow, but its beak, talons, and wings bore a visage, pure gold. Bradamant raised her sword high into the air. Its blade reflected a beam of sunlight. Atala winced and turned his head, having been temporarily blinded. Clutching her shield with her left hand, she said a silent prayer. As the wizard flew closer, she realized that his left hand clutched a shield covered by a red silken drape, while his right hand held no weapons, but instead an open book. She knew that only the magic ring she wore afforded her to see things as they truly were. As Atala swooped downward, he threw a spear at her. Bradamant urged her horse to jump sideways, avoiding the projectile. The wizard threw spear after spear, and she repeatedly dodged the attacks. The spent weapons stood upright in the ground, and a pattern quickly emerged. He was surrounding her in a cage of spears. She leaned downward, yanked one from the ground, and hurled it into the air, narrowly missing it. "Coward!" she yelled. "Come fight me on a horse! My steed is bound to this earth, while yours takes to the sky. That is an unfair match. Only cowards who know they cannot win in a fair fight resort to such deplorable tactics." Atala's face grew red. "Are you going to stay aloft? Or are you going to fight me on equal terms?" shouted Bradamant. Atala hurled another spear, but she stood her ground, using her shield, and deflected the weapon with a backhanded swing. Her arm exploded with pain. but her rage would not allow her to stop the fight. She dismounted and challenged Atala from the ground. My horse is no match for your flying beast. Therefore, I renounce it entirely. Meet me on the ground if you dare test your skills against mine. She wrenched the spears loose, stacking them in a pile while never taking her eye off her foe. The wizard tucked his magic book under his hauberk and unsheathed his sword. Flying downward, he delivered a fierce blow against Bradamant. Their swords clashed in midair. Her arms stung from the impact. Atala had the motions of a skillful warrior, but lacked the strength to execute his strokes with any power. His animal flew high into the air. Bradamant watched him massage his arm and catch his breath. The look on his face changed to one of determination as he fingered the red veil. The beast swooped downward again as Atala removed the cover from his shield. Bradamant fell to the ground and feigned unconsciousness when she saw the light reflected off the mirror-like shield. She heard Atala dismount and walk to her side. She bided her time as she had with Martesina. The wizard bent down and barely touched her when Bradamant sprang forward and knocked him to the ground. She grabbed the chain that had been intended for her and wrapped it around him, pinning his arms to his side. She was surprised in the act of subduing him at how frail he was. His bones felt brittle, and he had little musculature left. Her fury was soon replaced with pity as she looked into the eyes of a broken old man. From the deeply etched lines in his face, she guessed he must be at least 70 years of age.